One half, unfortunately, and especially when you're playing an elite team like Indiana, is not enough. I know all of us who are watching today went into this game knowing in our heart of hearts that Wisconsin was not going to win. I don't think that's being overly negative or pessimistic. I think it's just a function of reality. So when Wisconsin played most of the first 30 minutes in a disciplined, hard-hitting, ball control fashion, controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part, hit a big play, zigged when everyone thought they were going to zag, and went into halftime down 10-7. I don't know how many people thought Wisconsin was going to pull it out, but I can tell you, and I'll speak for myself, I thought we were going to get a little more in the second half than we did. By the way, like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. It'll help Scary stay ahead of the PJ Fleck Bavarian Lederhosen Hour. So this is a quick hitter today. Obviously, we got more football to watch if you still want to watch football after that second half. But I think this game was a really good microcosm of where the Wisconsin football program is here in mid-November. You can see aspects of the program that Fickell wants it to be, the program all of us want it to be. Hard-hitting, tough, ball control. It's not an offense that's going to impress anyone, really, with its big playability, although it did have one. But you see the green shoots sprouting through the concrete. And then, unfortunately, in the second half, and some of this, in fairness to Fickell and his team, was more Indiana, arguably the best team in college football this season, waking up. I probably no paint left on the walls of that Indiana locker room after Cignetti's halftime tirade. Because Wisconsin was just the more aggressive, harder-hitting team in that first half. But the second half, it looked, not always, but a lot like the scheme-deficient, maybe we'll make this tackle, maybe we won't, kind of team that we had seen all too much this season. So if you take the first half and take the second half, divide by 2, well, this is kind of who Wisconsin is this season. But I will say this. In defense of these players, many of whom played very hard today and just got worn down by a superior talented team. That's the reality of it. I don't wait too hard on these guys. You're not going to tell me Mason Posa wasn't playing hard today. Sometimes it just comes down to the better team playing at home, imposing its will. I think that's probably as much as it is anything that Wisconsin was deficient at. And I know it's very easy to say, well, and I'm doing it, first half versus second half. I think there's some things there, scheme-wise, effort-wise, that showed us that Wisconsin is not ready for prime time yet. But I also feel equally confident that if this had been a month ago, around the time they're playing Iowa, Maryland, some of those early season games when the buy-in was not good, and they would have played this game on the road against Indiana, the team could have lost by 60, guys. And I'm not saying this to make you feel better, about a 25-point loss. Wisconsin did cover, but to give you some perspective at how this turnaround, although there's some things we see that let us know that the things are turning around to some extent, effort, attitude, the hitting, things like that. This team still is what it is. You still have a fourth-string true freshman starting his first game. You have a now somewhat banged-up fourth-string running back. You still have that same jerry-rigged offensive line that you've been tinkering with all season. Okay. You have a depleted secondary missing its best player, as it has almost all season. Some teams can sustain losses like that seamlessly. Some teams don't and can't. And so I have a little bit of a mixed feeling today. Would I rather have had this game be IU from the start and then the final is what the final is, and then be like, well, Wisconsin was never really in it. They never really fought. No, I'd rather see one good half and one less than stellar half than have the whole game be on whack. But this is about what I expected overall. I think that the first half was a little better than I expected, and the second half was probably a little bit worse. But ultimately, at the end of this season, if Indiana University is the college football playoff champion, I would not be a bit surprised. Fernando Mendoza is a maestro. That's a Russell Wilson caliber talent playing for a team that has talent in almost every other position, more talent in every other position than Wisconsin. And then you layer on now, nothing against Carter Smith because he fought hard today, and I think the future is bright for Carter. Hopefully in a Badger uniform. Flip those quarterbacks, and Wisconsin might win this game. I mean, it's just that's where we are. So, while I'm not celebrating a loss today for Wisconsin, I do think we saw evidence of the fact that this team is in the process of making a turn. I don't know where that turn is going to go. I've been pretty clear about my feelings on Fickell as this season has gone on, and I would love to be 100% wrong about that. But I do believe that he's going to have to shake up his coaching staff before next season for me to be satisfied, at least. But I didn't see one iota of quit in this team today. I saw it being beaten into submission in the second half by a better team. I know that's sometimes a fine line. And I don't think anyone in that Wisconsin locker room is feeling proud that they only lost by what they lost to today. That they didn't drop that Cincinnati didn't drop 84 points on them. And if you go back and look at my Bucky's fifth quarter, most likely scenario, this is about it. So I can't hop on here and act like a disappointed father about how this team went. This might have been the most difficult place to play in college football today for any college football team. And you can be riding all the vibes you want after a gutsy, emotionally satisfying win over Washington. And that does not mean when the chips are counted at the end of this game, you were not destined to lose to Indiana. Because they pretty much were. Maybe at Madison the game is closer. Probably is. I don't know, guys. I'm trying to be philosophical about this. I'm trying not to get too high or too low. Even at halftime, you let those thoughts into your mind. Maybe they can do this. I'll be brutally honest with you. I didn't have that vibe, only in the sense that I didn't have the feeling that Indiana pushed the gas down maybe as hard as they could in the first half. I was ready for this second half to develop as it did. And I wasn't really surprised with how it went. I was actually more surprised with how the first half went than how the second half went. So, where does this leave us? Not the worst place. Again, this was not a worst case scenario kind of afternoon for Wisconsin. This does not undo the good that happened in Washington. I don't believe that at all. There are all kinds of NCAA football teams who would have gotten bludgeoned by Indiana today at Bloomington. All kinds of them. Okay? I mean, let's be real here. But my takeaway is I believe Wisconsin can and will be competitive in the last two games. And if the things break right, they could get a couple of victories. If the things break wrong, they get a couple losses. But there's nothing that I've seen in the last 3 weeks. I'll just go back 3 weeks because that's the most modern version of what this team is. That leads me to believe that Wisconsin cannot compete with Illinois next week in Camp Randall. I think they're probably going to be an underdog, and deservedly so. But I would not be shocked if Wisconsin wins that game. Similarly, the week after, in the Axe game, where I think the vibes will be super high, I hope he's not doing this thing like he did with Iowa, where we're making this the focus of everything. I don't want to do that, but just these kids remember. It's not fun seeing PJ Fleck running around, with an axe, insisting that the cameras be on him. So, yeah, I mean, not best case scenario certainly today, but not terrible in the sense of this was about what I thought would happen, even with the better play recently. We have a quarterback who will continue to develop. Can you imagine your first start of your college career going in and having to play probably the best team in college football, or if not the best, the second best? At 18 years old, Don't let the beard fool you guys. Carter Smith was in high school a year ago. Guy was probably his prom king or something. This is a big deal to have such young guys doing things and not crapping the bed. I mean, it not seem like the highest bar, but I'm telling you, today, not fun, never fun to lose, but nothing I saw today makes me think that this team isn't turning it around, at least to some extent. Obviously, there's a lot of variables. What people you keep in your class, who stays, what coaches. But today was not a disaster. And maybe that's faint praise, but it's where we are as Wisconsin football fans in 2025. Scary Alvarez is out.